In this video, I will talk about the transition arena. You will learn what factors make it successful, how to set it up, for example, how to involve and how to onboard people, and how to design the arena to reach its full potential. As we argued in the first video about the transition management, if we want to make a city climate neutral, we need to develop climate-friendly alternatives for all services, products, and production processes that generate CO2 emissions. This requires a lot of innovation and also the investment of resources that neither governments nor local authorities can finance themselves. So it is necessary that all organizations and members of the society play a part and contribute to this process called the transition to a sustainable city. We need organizations to align their plans with the mission of climate neutrality and with each other to increase efficiency and sustainability. In this way, both planning and implementation will be a shared responsibility of the so-called arena made up of quadruple helix actors, business, academia, civil society, and public organizations, including the local government. This is called network governance, which becomes the heart or the engine of the transformation process. The aim of the arena is therefore to provide a platform and the framework for local stakeholders to work together and develop joint plans. The long-term goal or mission is for the city to become climate neutral by 2030. Within the Viable Cities initiative, the short-term and more concrete goals of the transition arena are to develop a climate city contract, which is a roadmap for achieving the mission, and the ultimate goal is, of course, to implement this roadmap. More specifically, the arena has two purposes. It is a platform for joint creation of both climate innovation and climate investment plans. Second, it is also a platform for bringing about systemic change. When I talk about systemic change in this context, I mean ensuring that all organizations take ownership over the plans that have been developed and they are also committed to implementing them. The arena members are representatives of the quadruple helix organizations invited to join the arena who can play a crucial role in this process. They need to become the agents of change who can create and help anchor their organizations. Anchoring was briefly discussed in the second video on the transition theme, and I will go in more detail in this topic in the fourth video called Anchoring. For the time being, I would like to stress the dual purpose of the arena, which we need to take into account in the design. Since even the best plans are worthless if they are not implemented, therefore both planning and anchoring are essential tasks for the participants in the arena to make the transition happen. When I did my PhD research in Amsterdam, I studied energy communities, residential groups that invested in renewable energy technology, solar panels, windmills, or biogas power plants to meet their energy needs. To put it simply, they were neighbors who decided to do this project together voluntarily. No one paid them for the work, which could take several years. In fact, they had to invest in and risk their own savings to make this project happen. Why would people do that? That was my research question. In this sense, the organizations that participate in the arena and commit to developing and implementing the transition plans are very similar to energy communities. We expect them to work together voluntarily over a period of years to develop projects that they also need to fund, even if these projects may be risky investments. Why would they do this? How can we make sure that they succeed? In my research, I found that there are certain factors that need to be in place for a voluntary collective action to be successful. First of all, you cannot sanction people or organizations if they don't do what they have promised or if they quit. This is a fundamental rule. Although we cannot force them with a stick, we can motivate them with a carrot. So instead of sanctioning, we can introduce rewards that can motivate organizations to join. This could be economic benefits, the possibility of a good investment, or special subsidies or other benefits. For example, the municipality could offer its land for lease for climate neutral investment or set up a one-stop shop for easy licensing. And as initiatives and measures to reduce emission will intensify in the future, a direction in which Europe and hopefully the global economy as a whole is moving, companies that are first to develop zero-emission alternatives for products and services can also enjoy a first-mover advantage, acquiring significant advantage in the longer term. Another type of reward is social benefits. Participation in the transition arena usually attracts attention. Uppsala was one of my Swedish cities I studied. Their arena, called the Uppsala Climate Protocol, has been around for 15 years and everybody in town knows about it. When I interviewed companies that had signed up to the Uppsala Climate Protocol, I asked them what their main motivation was for doing so. They told me that on the one hand, their customers demanded that they join, and on the other hand, it brings a lot of positive attention. The protocol is invited to various events, they get a lot of media attention, even outside of the city, and sometimes outside of the country. Being a member of the protocol is prestigious and comes with extra benefits. Finally, there are normative benefits of joining the arena. Doing something for the environment and future generation is something that many organizations consider important and want to do their bit. In addition to the different types of benefits, I have also learned from the cases of energy communities that when people volunteer, trust becomes a crucial factor, and trust needs to be actively built and maintained. Developing a project that has never been done before is a high risk and a high stress. To help members cope with this, it can be helpful to have small, ongoing victories that show that things are going in the right direction and that the whole project will be a success. Secondly, it is also important that people feel involved and up to date with what's happening, which requires a constant flow of information that keeps them informed but not overwhelmed. Finally, some kind of code of conduct is needed to regulate cooperation, decision-making, and communication. As a final factor in the success of voluntary collective action, it is also essential that the costs and the risk of participation and collective investment are minimized. Even though the arena is a voluntary platform, the work developed in there is professional and should also be done in a professional framework. Therefore, to some extent, the arena's operation needs to get institutionalized, have formal functions introduced that ensure smooth workflow. I will talk about this a bit later. Finally, I have also learned from the community cases that above a certain size, voluntary groups still need professional help. For example, experts and professionals who are paid for this work. So hybrid systems of voluntary organizations and professionals are the most effective arenas. As I said, the arena is formed by quadruple helix actors who are from business, academia, citizens, and public organizations, including also the representatives of the local government. At the same time, it also covers the different urban sectors, especially those with the highest emissions. The arena is established for a long-term collaboration and co-creation. It should be inclusive to all segments of local society. The arena is therefore not a static institution, but a constantly changing and evolving platform. Then the arena has also a multi-level dimension, as some organizations that are important in the local economy and possibly also large emitters do not operate locally, but their planning and decision-making takes place at national or sometimes at EU level. Take, for example, a local unit of a large international company, or big NGOs that may represent citizens well, but they do not have a local group in every city. In some other cases, the local government itself is not the right level of actor. For example, in the case of some debates on infrastructure or subsidies, then decisions have to be taken at the national level. So in addition to the horizontal dimension, the arena must also have a vertical dimension that links the arena to actors at the national level. Therefore, when designing the arena, strategies must be developed to align the different dimensions and how to continuously onboard new actors who can join the cooperation at different stages. But let's focus on getting started. At the beginning, we clearly need to involve the biggest emitters who may be overrepresented in business or public organizations, but less so in academia or citizens group. To counterbalance this, we also need committed actors. However, there are actors such as citizens or SMEs that are more difficult to engage. Firstly, they are less connected. So one SME or one citizen representative cannot really represent all the other SMEs and citizens. Secondly, SMEs usually cannot afford to be represented in the arena and lack a staff member who can actively participate in the co-creation process on a regular basis. Consequently, for these less connected actors, we need to develop other forms of participation. Concrete short-term projects or alternative forums called incubators. In terms of citizens, the challenge of engagement is even bigger. How shall we do that? Who are this big mass of people who need to be involved somehow? If we think about it, it certainly sounds very challenging. So let's split this faceless crowd into smaller groups who we can understand better. So who are the citizens? Owners, homeowners, workers, members of clubs and churches, commuters and shoppers, and their role as a parent is also important in the transition. We need to address people in their different roles, as each role requires its own communication channels and its own type of engagement. We can reach people as church members through the church, or as customers through specific campaigns for restaurants or shops. Some people are more likely to join a project or campaign in a role closer to their heart than in another. People with children may be more likely to join campaigns specifically for parents, while others may join campaigns specifically for bikers, and so on. How can they contribute to the transition in their different roles? As a homeowner, they can invest in energy efficiency solutions, or as consumers, they can choose to buy sustainable products. They can also change their behavior. For example, as commuters, they can choose to use a bicycle instead of a car. They can also influence others in their immediate environment to make a change. For example, as a member of a club, they can decide to do voluntary projects together, such as planting trees or setting up an energy community. In this way, citizens can become agents of change. Finally, they can use their consumption choices to encourage companies to sell sustainable products, or use their votes in elections to encourage political candidates who focus on climate issues. If we want to unleash their potential to make their various contributions, we must first understand what is preventing them from doing so. They may simply not be aware of the different opportunities. Or they may be aware, but they don't really think it's their responsibility to do something to reduce emissions. Unfortunately, there is still no political consensus on the urgency of climate change, and people can be biased by different political agendas, not knowing who to trust. People's norms or values may favor consumption and carefree living over environmental protection. Or they may be aware of and concerned about climate change, but have limited resources and do not want to risk major investment, such as switching to solar panels. They may wonder whether the investment will really pay off in the end. Some are simply too busy or lazy to make the change or want to avoid the inconvenience. Citizen engagements must therefore address these challenges and develop campaigns or projects that involve them in their different roles and capacities. When designing the arena, in addition to ensuring that all actors and sectors of the quadruple helix are equally represented, it is important to pay attention to the power imbalances that may occur in the arena. Research shows that even though members of the arena are in principle equal, which is a prerequisite for a free co-creation process, in reality, the power dynamics of the arena reflect real-life power imbalances. These people representing strong organizations tend to take the lead in the process and dominate others from less powerful organizations. For example, in the case where there are more options for zero-emission alternatives, those with better financial means may steer decision-making towards the option that is more favorable to them. Let me share with you an example from a city about urban transition experiment. When the city Arena was working on reducing emissions from local transport system, two options emerged. Either keep the current infrastructure and electrify transport, or completely transform the city by implementing the 15-minute city concept, which brings all necessary infrastructure within a 15-minute cycling distance. The car companies, which were the most influential members of that arena, were understandably more interested in the first option and pushed for the solution that suited their interest. In this context, power means political and economic power. Organizations that are within this circle are the most powerful. Developing a selection strategy and selecting the first tier of organizations who we want to involve in the arena doesn't immediately mean that they will really join. In fact, this was one of the biggest challenges of the transition teams I talked to. To address this challenge, we first need to understand the reasons for joining the arena from the organization's perspective. In my research, I conducted interviews with representatives of different organizations, and I asked them what was their motivation for joining, and I found several reasons. Many said that initially they were just curious about this platform organized by the municipality. It is always good to have a good relationship with the municipality and to follow up on their projects and initiatives. Others said that they had already started to implement or plan projects to reduce their CO2 emissions, but needed help or partners which they hoped to find in the arena. For most organizations, the network and the potential incentives for participating in the arena were also a strong motivator. In cities where the arena had been around for some time and had gained some prestige locally, organizations were expected by their clients to join the arena. In Uppsala, for example, I heard that there was a lot of public pressure on companies to join, or they might lose their customers. Understanding their motivations is important for designing an onboarding strategy that can help involve all the selected organizations in the joint work. Such a strategy can be based on three pillars. First, a portfolio of incentives. I will elaborate on this in a minute. Second, identifying the personal agendas of the different organizations for joining, which, if aligned with the mission, is perfectly fine to have, and they should be also ensured that they can meet these personal agendas. And third, each organization may have planned or ongoing projects that are in line with the mission and that can be part of the joint plans and activities. Why reinvent the wheel when it's already there? Better to build on it and work with it. Once the onboarding strategy is in place, it is also important to explore the capacity and the mandate of the representatives. When I talk about capacity, I'm thinking primarily about time, but also about relevant expertise. Mandate refers to the ability to take decisions or initiate projects on behalf of the organization. Of course, the greater the capacity and the mandate of the arena participants, the better. However, if the majority of the participants are below a certain level of mandate and capacity, it will be difficult to make the arena work. As I mentioned, the first possible pillar of onboarding strategy is to develop a portfolio of incentives that can be offered to the organizations. Even though there are a growing number of private and public companies that have strong environmental values and are committed to reducing their emissions, it would be unrealistic to expect them to delegate a person to the arena, pay him to participate without gaining any extra benefit from the process. However, by giving them access to certain special support, we can make this option more attractive to them. Let's look at what incentives could be provided by the municipality to the different stakeholders. It could offer easier permitting for projects in the arena, or lease municipal land, or offer some special subsidies or tax benefits. The municipality can also encourage academic partners to participate by providing research funds or access to data held by the municipality. Citizens can be involved by focusing on specific issues in their immediate environment in civic budget campaigns. However, not only the municipality can encourage the other groups of actors to participate, but they can also encourage each other. For example, citizens can put public pressure on companies and demand that they join the arena, or they can encourage the local government to take a leading role in the transition effort through support of parties and politicians who are committed to the transition effort. But the list of incentives that all other stakeholder groups could potentially provide to each other could go on. To ensure that they do so, they can be encouraged or nudged through specific information campaigns, for example, to raise awareness of climate change and how local businesses can get involved in reducing emissions. So the success factors for setting up a transition arena are the following: mapping and meeting arena members' motivations and expectations, even out the balance of power and monitor to ensure that it remains balanced, ensure that arena members have clear mandates and access to decision makers, ensure that arena members are willing and have the time to participate in the process. Once you have selected the members, you need to design the arena. More precisely, it needs to be decided how the participants want to structure the work in the arena and what workflows they want to follow, so the arena can meet both the goals of developing transition plans to make the city climate neutral and getting the organizations to commit to implementing them. This process is primarily the responsibility of the members and can take many forms. But there is no one-size-fits-all solution. There are certain functions that need to be provided in the arena to ensure smooth operations. The transition team, which is not directly part of the arena, has an important role to play in facilitating the functioning of the arena by enabling members to acquire all the skills and knowledge necessary to fulfill their dual role. At the same time, members of the transition team are usually the only participants in the process who are involved on a professional and not voluntary basis, and can therefore take on tasks that volunteer members do not have time for. This can be creating models or analyses, developing certain time-consuming parts of the plans, organizing meetings or developing newsletters, or carrying out certain administrative tasks, etc. Let's look at the arena, where many cities tend to set up different types of working groups around focus areas. Once such working groups have been formed, it is important to establish a framework for co-creation, define the goal and sub-goals, and pair this with deadlines and specific outputs. To avoid it becoming a tea party and to ensure that joint work achieves real results, it is important to structure the work and introduce deadlines. In addition, participants need to agree on the roles and responsibilities of the members and how internal communication and coordination will be carried out. The next and very important function I would like to discuss is the main coordination function within the arena. This helps to oversee and link all the different group activities and ensure that all efforts are aligned with the mission and move at more or less the same speed. This is the function that facilitates learning and communication within the arena and with the outside world. People fulfilling these coordinating functions also need to evaluate the progress of the work and make sure that it meets the expectations of the members. Finally, it is also important to have a representative function to appoint people who can represent the work and become the face of the transition process in the media. At the same time, a panel of high-level representatives can also play an active role in recreating new organizations and anchoring current organizations, which I will discuss in more detail in the anchoring video. Once we have designed the structure of the arena and enabled the different functions, it is also important to agree on how decisions are made, which decisions are made at the working group level, and which decisions require the involvement of the whole arena. Communication is another important part of the work that I would like to discuss. First, the internal communication channels of the arena need to be established. Within and between working groups, channels and platforms for different types of communication, information exchange, sharing updates in newsletters, and reflection and learning on other platforms. For voluntary collective action to work, one of the success factors is the trust that members have in each other and in the mission. Therefore, the more we can build a community of the arena members, the more they share a common identity, the more engaged they will be. To create this, it is good to give the arena a name, just as Uppsala has named its long-standing arena the Uppsala Climate Protocol. Let's give it a logo and a website. Hold your own events and celebrations, and develop a narrative that connects people, that binds them together for a good cause. Finally, the arena should also develop its external communication channels, which play an important role in attracting new organizations and increasing its prestige in the local community, which is a good social benefit for arena members. In order to increase efficiency and ensure that everybody is on board, everyone is satisfied, and the process are moving in the right direction, some form of monitoring and evaluation needs to be introduced. But focusing on the numbers can be very daunting and misleading in complex system change. Progress may not be visible for a long time, as changes in mental models and approaches occur in people's mind that cannot be seen immediately, but which form the basis for profound transformations. Active and regular reflections, rather than measurement, can become the primary form of evaluation, which can also trigger higher order learning in participants. But other forms of evaluation and monitoring can also be introduced if members feel they can capture the complex changes that the arena has triggered. To make the arena's operation smooth without much conflicts, roles and responsibilities of the participants need to be also clearly defined. Furthermore, a code of conduct needs to be set up and agreed by everyone that contains the main values and rules for example, how to handle conflicts, underperformance, and people leaving. Thus, the success factors are the following. There is a clear and strong coordination and work structure. The rules, code of conduct, and processes are clear and transparent. Tasks and responsibilities are defined with mandates and timelines. And work is rewarded. And finally, communication and information flow is constant. Reflexive learning is supported, and regular small wins and encouraging events are secured.